Chapter 8. Ginger's story continued. The next time that Ginger and I were together in the paddock, she told me about her first place. After my breaking in, she said, I was bought by a dealer to match another chestnut horse. For some weeks he drove us together, and then we were sold to a fashionable gentleman and were sent up to London. I had been driven with a bearing rein by the dealer, and I hated it worse than anything else. But in this place we were reined far tighter, the coachman and his master thinking in this way we looked more stylish. We were often driven about in the park and other fashionable places. You, who never had a bearing rein on, don't know what it's like. But I can tell you, it is dreadful. I like to toss my head about and hold it high as any horse, but you can fancy how it would feel if you tossed your head up high and were obliged to hold it there for hours together, not able to move it at all, except with a jerk still higher, and all this time your neck was aching till you didn't know how to bear it. Besides this, you have 2 bits instead of 1, and mine was a sharp one. It hurt my tongue and my jaw, and the blood from my tongue coloured the froth that kept flying to my lips as I chafed and fretted at the bits and rein. It was worse when we had to stand by the hour waiting for our mistress at some grand party or entertainment, and if I fretted or stamped with impatience, the whip was laid on. It was enough to drive one mad. Did your master not take any thought for you? I said. No, she said. He cared only to have a stylish turnout, as they call it. I think he knew very little about horses. He left that to his coachman, who told him that I was of an irritable temper and that I had not been well broken in to bearing rein, but I should soon get used to it. However, he was not the man to do it, for when I was in the stable, miserable and angry, instead of being soothed and quietened by kindness, I only got a surly word or a blow. If he had been civil, I would have tried to bear it. I was willing to work, and ready to work hard too, but to be tormented for nothing but their fancies angered me. What right had they to make me suffer like that? Besides the soreness in my mouth and the pain in my neck, the bearing rein always made my windpipe feel bad, and if I had stopped there long, I knew it would have spoiled my breathing. I grew more and more restless and irritable. I could not help it. Then I began to snap and kick when anyone came to harness me, and for this the groom beat me. One day, as they had just buckled us up into the carriage and we were straining my head up with the rein, I began to plunge and kick with all my might. I soon broke a lot of harness and kicked myself clear, so my stay there was ended. Soon I was sent to Tattersall to be sold off. Of course I could not be warranted free from vice, so nothing was said about that. My handsome appearance and good paces soon brought a gentleman to bid for me, and I was bought by another dealer. He tried me in all kinds of ways with different bits and soon found out that I could bear. At last he drove me quite without bearing rein, then sold me as a perfectly quiet horse to a gentleman in the country. He was a good master, and I was getting on very well, but his old groom left him, and the new one came. This man was as hard-tempered and hard-handed as Samson. He always spoke in a rough, impatient voice, and if I did not move in the stall the moment he wanted me, he would hit me above the hocks with the stable broom or the fork, whichever he might have in his hand. Everything he did was rough, and I began to hate him. He wanted to make me afraid of him, but I was too high-mettled for that. One day, when he had aggravated me more than usual, I bit him. This, of course, put him in a great rage, and he began to hit me about the head with a riding whip. After that, he never dared to come into my stall again. Either my heels or my teeth were ready for him. He knew it. I was quite quiet with my master, but of course he listened to what the man said, and so I was sold again. The same dealer heard of me, and said he thought he knew of a place where I should do well. 'Twas a pity, he said, that such a fine horse should go to the bad for want of a real good chance. And the end of it was that I came here not long before you did. I had now made up my mind that men were of my natural enemies and that I must defend myself. Of course it's very different here, but who knows how long it will last? I wish I could think about things as you do, but I can't after all I have gone through. Well, I said, I think I would be a real shame if you were to bite or kick John or James. I don't mean to, she said. While they are good to me. I did once bite James pretty sharp, but John said, try her with kindness, and instead of punishing me, as I expected, James came to me with his arm bound up and brought me a bran mash and stroked me, and I have never snapped at him since, and I won't again. I was sorry for Ginger, but of course I knew very little then, and I thought most likely she made the worst of it. However, I found that as the weeks went on, she grew much more gentle and cheerful, and lost the watchful, defiant look that she used to turn on any strange person who came near her. And one day James said, I do believe that Mary's getting fond of me. She quite whined after me this morning when I had been rubbing her forearm. Aye, aye, Jim, 'tis the Burtock balls, said John. She'll be as good as Black Beauty by kindness. It's all psychic she wants, poor thing. Master noticed the change too, and one day when he got out of the carriage and came to speak to us as often as he did, he stroked her beautiful neck. Well, my pretty one, well, how do things go with you now? You're a good bit happier than you were when you came to us, I think. She put her nose up to him in a friendly, trustful way, while he rubbed it gently. We shall make a cure of her, John said. Yes, sir, she's wonderfully improved. She's not the same creature that she was. It's the Burtock balls, sir, said John, laughing. This was a little joke of John's. He used to say that a regular course of the Burtock horse balls would cure almost any vicious horse. These balls, he said, were made up of patience and gentleness, firmness and petting, 1 pound of each to be mixed with half a pint of common sense, then given to the horse every